Wow, thank you. Gracias a todos por hablar. Elizabeth, wow. Can you guys look up for a bit? What does it look like?
Hazy.
It's hot. It's really hot. So, vamos a ver para arriba y para abajo ahorita. So, right now I have the honor to introduce right now, he's a columnist, screenwriter, political commentator, and a co-creator of the acclaimed film, Don't Look Up. Okay, so I have the honor to introduce David Sirota. David, ¿dónde estás, amigo? Wow, I got chills. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. So, hopefully, many of you have seen the movie that we put out. I hope everyone saw it. Don't Look Up. And the reaction to the movie has been interesting. There's been, it's generated a lot of conversation, which is what a movie is supposed to do. But one of the things that, one of the reactions that I've thought about a lot is there's some of the reaction about, is a comet really climate change? Now, of course, an admission, no. A comet is not literally climate change. So I'll stipulate that. But I think that some of the questions about whether a comet is really climate change and trying to make that kind of the conversation is a defense mechanism against what climate change really actually is. That people, lots of people don't want to accept the urgency of this emergency. They don't want to think that a climate crisis is something that imminently, right now, today, threatens our society, threatens our planet, threatens our species' survival.
Yeah, that's right.
And the reason to think of it that way is because that is exactly what scientists are telling us. That is not just what they're telling us, that is what the science itself says. And so the people in this building are not treating it that way. The governor of this state is not treating it that way. We know what a government can do when it takes seriously an emergency. We have seen that time and time again in our state's history and in our country's history. And we know from the past in how our government has dealt with crises that this government here in Denver, this government at the state level, this government in Washington is not behaving in the way that it could behave. That the people in this building are not behaving in the way that they could behave. When there is a wildfire that burns down a part of our state, and the President of the United States comes and visits this state and says that it is a code red emergency, all while his administration is continuing to increase drilling, and very few people, if any, even ask him about that discrepancy, that is a society that is not taking the emergency seriously. The question that our movie asks is, what will get us to take this emergency seriously? Are we a society that can take an emergency seriously? Or are people in this building, are people in Washington too bought off, too invested in the status quo, too looking out for themselves to actually take a crisis that threatens all of us seriously?
Right, yeah.
I don't know the answer to that question. I can't see the future. Our movie doesn't see the future, although it prophesizes about what happens if we don't take it seriously. But there's a line in the movie that I hope everybody caught There's a line in the movie where the scientist is yelling at the camera in exasperation. And he says, we could have stopped this. And to me, that's the most important message of the movie, that the movie is not prophecy or destiny. It is cautionary. We are at the moment where we can still save humanity.
Yeah.
We know what needs to be done to save humanity. In fact, it's completely doable. That's the most frustrating part. We actually can do this. The longer we wait, the closer that comet comes, the harder it is to do the things necessary to be done. But we still have time. We still have a state government that can stop approving drilling permits. We still have a state legislature that can do all sorts of things to get this state and this society off of fossil fuels. We are still at that part in the movie. We're not at the end of the movie. So what we all have to do in every aspect of our lives is try to make the people in this building, try to make the people in Washington do what needs to be done. This crisis cannot be solved only by us individually doing what we need to do, as important as that is. What we need is collective action. Our history proves that when we work together, when the government puts its mind together to do big things, those things can be done. But they cannot be done with leaders who refuse to take this crisis seriously, with leaders who are so beholden to the industries that are profiting off this crisis that they refuse to do the obvious things necessary to do, that science says must be done to save humanity. The good news is that those things can be done. They can be technologically, they can be politically, but it's going to require us for the rest of our lives to demand and force these people in this building and in Washington, kicking and screaming, to do what needs to be done. Thank you.